I'm Ayman, and welcome back to one of my landscaping and DIY videos. This video is a bit of an intro to a series of videos on our project to rebuild our fence in our backyard. So let me set the stage and give you some background. So this is our backyard, and right next to it is a junkyard that has been owned by 4 people in the past. First it caught on fire, then it was condemned, and then another guy bought it, and he was like 70 years old, and he was a bit of a hoarder, as you can tell. Got a ton of junk, stored it in the junkyard, and I think the worst part is that he didn't store it well. When he stored it, he would just pile things up, and he would pile them up against our fence. And in the summer, it might look okay, but when winter comes, the ground gets soft, and it causes everything to heave towards the fence and lean on it. And that caused our fence, as you can see here, to tilt backwards here. And that fence has been serving us well for about 10 years now. It's a very good fence. It's a 6-foot tall dog-eared fence. My dad built it himself. And before that, we actually had a metal fence that was about 4 feet tall. That was behind it. And the guy who was 70 years old, he actually, as you saw just now, he actually cut it. He angle grinded it. And I don't know what he did with it, because he put it somewhere near the river. He put it under the ground, but it doesn't really serve a purpose besides like being able to stand on it, which why do you need to stand on the ground near the river? So he just took our metal fence and did nothing with it. Anyway, now the junkyard is abandoned, the guy's gone, and it's owned by the city. And for clarification, I call this a junkyard. It is a junkyard now, but it used to be a warehouse. And then it was converted into a multi-family apartment unit, and then it burned down. So now it's been mostly used as storage, and that's why I call it a junkyard. And as you can see, it kind of is a junkyard, and that's accurate to call it that. But that's sort of the story behind this property. It's an eyesore right now, and we have a lot of functions that we want to have this summer. Now we don't want this sort of eyesore to be there the entire time. So that's one of the main reasons we want to rebuild the fence. Also, we want to renew it just because the fence is getting old and it might get broken. And lastly, for safety and security reasons, actually, there's a multitude of reasons. There's also, we want to add like an electrical conduit and be able to plug our stuff in. Another reason is safety and security, because people actually like venture into the back of this junkyard and scavenge around for stuff, and it's kind of, they can see into our backyard, and it's kind of unsafe. So there's probably even more reasons to why we're building this fence, but I just want to justify like why we're doing this. And now I also want to explain how we're going to do it. So right now, this fence is 6 feet tall, and we want to sort of maintain this height for the rest of the property line. But so the idea is like we want to put a fence that like goes 6 feet up and remains 6 feet tall all the way to the end. And the thing is, the building code allows us to have like a max fence height of 7 feet. We're choosing 6 feet to be safe, but that 7 feet limit is based on the lowest ground. So if we want to build a 6 feet tall fence, it's actually 6 feet tall from this lower backyard. So it's about this high. We want it to be 6 feet tall from the junkyard. So in order to not circumvent it, but to follow building code, we're actually going to raise the ground here. And in order to raise the ground, actually, we're going to do a few steps. We're going to put these cinder blocks over here, and we're going to raise it about 24 inches and put rebar in it. So we're going to put cinder blocks down this line and then put the fence. But in order to follow the building code, we're going to raise the ground on this side, which means we're going to build a second wall and raise the ground here. So my dad said that I should clarify that I said building codes, but it's actually more accurate to say zoning codes or zoning regulations, because fences here it's limited to 7 feet in our city, and actually in our state of Connecticut, it's usually like a 6 feet limit. There's actually more on that, but I don't want to get on a tangent. If anything is larger than 7 feet tall, it actually counts as a structure, and that's what would be under talking about building codes. Because this fence would be under 7 feet, then it's under zoning. So it's a bit of a small difference, but it's an important distinction to make, and I know a lot of people care, so I might as well mention it in this video, and people can talk about it further in the comments if you like talking about the sort of bureaucratic, I call it nonsense, but building codes are pretty important. But anyway, not to get off track, so the idea is we're putting, again, cinder blocks with poles, putting a fence, and then in order to make sure that the height from the fence to the ground here is 6 feet at max, we're gonna install ground. We're gonna build a wall here and fill it with dirt so that the height from that ground to the top of the fence is 6 feet. Okay, so my dad's gonna be the one who's mainly doing the, building the base of the retaining wall, and he's taking an angle grinder to all of this old canopy and all this old metal so that we can use it as poles for the cinder blocks. My job is going to be mostly hauling all the cinder blocks to the backyard. We've received shipments of these cinder blocks, which we'll probably put a clip of in the video, or we'll probably link it in a separate video. But we get them all the way in our driveway, and we have about 200 right now. We plan to have about 400 for the entire length of the backyard. But regardless of the number, it's going to be a lot of cinder blocks to haul from our driveway to the backyard, and that's why we've gotten this Gorilla Cart. So my dad bought this Gorilla Cart, or we bought this Gorilla Cart in order for this project to be done, because we need to haul a ton of stuff to the backyard. And the nice thing about this Gorilla Cart is, obviously it can hold a lot. It's like 7 cubic foot. But it also has a tow hook that we can hook up to our lawnmower and use that as a way to haul everything from the driveway to here. So if you're interested in this Gorilla Cart, or you have a similar project that you might need it for, go check out my videos on that. Because I'm doing quite a lot of videos on it. I'm doing assembly and showing you how to hook it up to the tractor, and I'm doing tests on it. So go check that out if you're interested. But that's pretty much all I have for this video. So yeah, it's a pretty long video, but that's because the intro video is meant to give you all the background information on what's going on. Because I know when I actually do the videos on like specific how-tos, people are gonna be like, hey, stop talking, and just show us how to do the thing. Some people like that, some people don't, but I figure this is much more safer to explain all of this in an intro video. And then in the later video, mention it offhand and say, oh, if you want to learn more, just go back to this video. And one last thing I want to mention is that over the last few years, me and my dad built and renovated our old open air patio into this sunroom. And so I mentioned before, the junkyard is a pretty huge eyesore, and to be honest, it would take a hell of a ton of work to revitalize it or make it look at least decent. But that's not to say that's impossible, because if you look at pictures of our patio before we renovated it or rebuilt it, it was crazy. Things were stacked and it was just a mess. It was chaotic. That's to say that you can turn something that's chaotic into something beautiful, just like you see with the sunroom behind us. If you're interested in the sunroom, we've done a series of videos on it, so go check that out. It's a very interesting watch, so I recommend it. But anyway, that's all. There's going to be quite a lot of projects that I'm going to be doing this summer with my dad. We have a pretty huge backyard and a lot to clean. I know it looks messy, but this is how we live, and we live great. So we want to be able to share that with the world, and also show you the value of hard work and having a good work ethic. But anyway, I'm Ayman, and thanks for watching. Please like, rate, comment, subscribe, and look at other videos on Ayman, especially our videos on rebuilding this fence and other landscaping videos that we're going to be doing this summer, and gardening videos. And I'll see you there. But for now, I'm Ayman, and signing out. Peace.